This is the Relevant Podcast.
It's episode 1193, and it's the Relevant Podcast here in Orlando. I'm your host, Cameron Strang, and joining me from Loverland, Virginia, is Jesse Carey.
Hello, hello.
From Nashville, it's our managing editor, downtown Emily Brown.
Hey, y'all.
And we can't find Derek today.
He's MIA.
He's MIA.
We're actually pretty concerned.
Very concerned. So if any of you have seen or heard from Derek Minor, he did like a photo that I sent the group chat last night around 3 in the morning. He liked it this morning at like 6 a.m. So we have like a wellness check has happened. We just haven't been able to hear from him since 6 a.m.
That could literally be anyone, though.
Oh.
That's not like we need a photo of him with today's newspaper at the bare minimum. Hearting a photo does nothing for us. That could be the hostage taker.
Well, I will say, if he posts a picture of him with a newspaper, I am going to assume it's a hostage situation.
Oh,
it's
yes,
it's the only effective proof of life.
Also, where did you get the newspaper? The hostage people ran down to 7-Eleven real quick. Do they even sell newspapers at 7-Eleven? I don't even know.
I don't know. I don't. I'm trying to think of the last time I've seen a newspaper stand out in the wild. Maybe I see them and just my eyes no longer recognize Like it's like, when's the last time you saw a phone booth? It's possible I walked by one, but it seems so archaic that my mind just kind of blurs it out. You know,
at the airport, the old phone booth stalls are just holes now. They're just, they didn't take out the kiosk along the wall. They just took the phone part off. So there's this little ledge and and little dividers. Okay. Anyway,
I was gonna say, I feel like I see newspapers at the airport, but now I am trying to think of like where I've seen a physical newspaper. Okay,
but this is good. This is how detectives work. That means if he does post a photo with a newspaper, he went to the airport.
Yeah, or he's staying at like one of those budget hotels that slides a USA Today like right outside your door. You know,
as one of the perks, like for the business travelers.
And honestly, but the great thing about USA Today is like it is basically. Well, I know the last time I've actually encountered a USA Today in the wild, but I remember even back in the day, USA Today was essentially the equivalent of like scrolling Instagram or Twitter. You know what I mean? Big, bright infographs, not a lot of meat on those stories. You're pretty much reading a headline in about 200 words, and then it's another, fun infograph. It was like, I feel like there's a reason why that's one of the only papers that are still around, is because they realized early on, like old school newspaper reading just isn't happening,
I think you could do an academic, somebody do a thesis on this. If like you're in media studies or whatever, like for your doctorate. But I think you could trace down, because like we mentioned a couple shows ago, we know statistically that millennials really only read headlines and then will react or post a comment or share the story without really reading the story. And we also know that Gen Z doesn't even read the headline. They just watch videos, right? I think you could probably trace all of that back to the dumbing down of America media literacy to USA Today in the early 80s. They were the first ones to say, you don't really need to think. Here's just a pretty picture, But
in fairness, like I was a lifeguard at one time at a pool.
Yes,
and,
lifeguard of the pay period twice.
That's right. And you got a lot of time to kill out there, especially on a cloudy day when there's no lives to guard. Like you're just sitting there, all day.
You're not allowed to like go inside or something?
There is no inside.
It's a pool.
Yeah.
But pools have like that little building next to it where you change. There's bathrooms and there's usually just like a little community room or something.
But there's normally no air conditioning in there.
Yeah, there was no place you'd want to hang out inside. There's like a pump room, but no one's kicking it in the pump room. There's quite a bit of chemicals in there, and you feel a little weird being in about 5 minutes, not knowing what you're inhaling.
I watched Caddyshack. I think the people who work at things like that enjoy the pump room, quote unquote. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
chemicals.
I can tell you that is the case among my coworkers.
Right, exactly.
More reason at the time I didn't spend a lot of time in that pump room.
Got it.
You got a bad reputation. You coming in and out of the pump room.
You a pump room guy? Yeah. You're either a pump room guy or you're a stay outside guy. Yeah.
It takes about 20 seconds to flip on the chlorinator. Like it's not. There's no reason to go in there. But anyway, I would pick up USA Today on the way in the gas station. And in fairness, like, and that was the day I had the option of picking up like, you know, a couple national newspapers that were on the newsstand at the convenience store or whatever. And, you know, I think it's fair to say they dumbed down journalism, you know,
and attention spans. That's where I was going, is more the attention span. The capacity to engage long form journalism evaporated with the advent of USA Today. That's my observation.
I don't think it's untrue, but I also think it was a great product. like I'm not saying it didn't have like.
I like the value meal at McDonald's. Yeah, I like the Big Mac.
But
yeah.
I would say this: if you had like, there was something very enjoyable because and they would. And look, if we were in the print business primarily for a long time, the whole business model of all media has shifted away from like physical objects, but they were ahead in so many ways. Like the sections, they had like news, sports, finance, life. Life was the fun one. It was like the pop culture one, and they were color coded. So as you're thumbing through the paper, you could just pick out the color you wanted and know what section. Like, it was all this fun stuff that I feel like they were just ahead of their time in ways. I'm not saying the net result was a positive, but it was not a bad product because they thought about print journalism like with like UI in mind, which I feel like there wasn't another, like they actually cared how you, the interface of the paper, how you're interacting with it. Because a lot of papers were a pain to read. It was like, all right, continue story on page 39C. And you're trying to like do this math and like, all right, I got to flip to this page to read the end of the story that was on this other page. And it's like in the middle of the page. And where you know what I mean? Like,
so difficult.
They were terrible UI experiences where USA Today cracked the code.
You know why they did that though? They did that to force you to go see other ads.
Yeah.
It's a multi-paginated web article. So they can load more ads. That's all it was.
But USA Today thought, let's put the user experience first. You know, someone write the thesis how it's negative. I will write it and how it was revolutionary.
Okay, as you're talking about your love for USA Today, I'm sitting there actually remembering. I don't know why I'm tongue-in-cheek dogging them, because they were very, very kind to Relevant and really helped put us on the map in the early days. They did. You mentioned the life section. That's what prompted the memory. They put Relevant as their cover story for the life section. And like we were like above the fold, huge, announcing a new generation of Christians that didn't look like the 1980s moral majority televangelist crowd, you know what I mean? Like a new era is here. And remember on the homepage, the front page, up in the upper right-hand corner, they would have a little square which would tease in an interior story or something. I remember when we got the issue that spotlit us, up in the upper right-hand corner on the front page of USA Today for millions of people to see was my face. And the headline, the teaser said, "Is Cameron Strang the next Billy Graham?"
Wow.
Ooh.
Look at that.
And I looked at it and verbally said, no.
Listen, but they threaded a needle of sensationalism in a way that wasn't tabloidish. It was like, it was clickbait. They were doing print clickbait.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Before internet clickbait. Here's another example. And I still remember this to this day. Yeah. This is going to age me, but I'm about the same age. I think me and LeBron James were born the same year. Right. And so as he was coming into the NBA, I was, 18, 19. And I was in a convenience store and they had a USA Today and someone had left it open to the life section. And the cover of I still remember this because I was so compelled. I was like, I have to purchase this. It was a hypothetical sketch of what his Nike signature shoe could look like. It was based on no inside information. It's not like they talked to a shoe designer. They were like, wouldn't it be cool if his shoe looked like this? And it was like a sketch and they had like a cross section. So you see the technology in it. You can see like fake King James logos that some guy at USA Today just made up but it was based on nothing, but it was like the perfect thing. Like if you saw that on the internet, you'd be like, all right, I'm going to give it a click. I got to see this thing.
Concept art for potential products or the next iteration of the iPhone or whatever all the time is the thing. Yeah. People just guessing. They have no idea.
Yeah, that was a blind guess, but it was like, if you're trying to get me to buy this paper, I'm absolutely doing it because this looks really fun to just analyze. You know what I mean? They were onto something. There's no need to, you know what I'm saying? They were like pre-clickbait. They were print clickbait and it worked. You know?
They took us from normal Americans being willing to read 1,000 words about a story to we couldn't tolerate more than 250 words, to the next generation couldn't tolerate more than the headline, to the next generation couldn't tolerate more than the photo.
I'm just saying, fantastic product. Like,
and thank you for putting us on the map, USA Today. Sorry about that.
Listen, okay, wait. I've been silent the whole time. This has been a really interesting thing to hear, but I've actually been stuck on one really important thing we need to dig into.
Me being the next Billy Graham?
No. Jesse, why were you buying a print paper to bring to a lifeguard stand where you were going to get wet? Like, why? Because that makes no sense to me.
There was no smartphones. You couldn't just scroll on you didn't have a device. You only had print.
Like, I'm imagining if I'm in the pool and I'm like, man, this teenage kid is the only one who's going to save me from death, and he's like flipping through a newspaper, I'm going to be so mad.
Hold on. In Jesse's defense, the way I heard the story was when he was bored because there was no lives to guard, he would read the paper. But when people were there, he was on duty, and he wasn't.
Will say, that's kind of true. But I did get reprimanded my first week because I joined a pool volleyball game while on duty because they were a man down. And I was like, all right, I'll jump in. Someone reported me. Someone narked me out that I was playing pool volleyball and not watching the pool.
Was it someone that you beat in the volleyball game?
I don't know. It was never told to me.
Were there other families and children swimming and you were...
It's 5 feet deep, dude. The pool was 5 feet deep.
No, but answer the question. Okay. You're talking about the way you make this pool sound is that it's empty all the time. So I'm sitting there thinking 7 people show up. They're having a good time. They want an 8th to do a game. You jump in, help them out. It's only the 8 of you in the pool. What I'm asking is, was it a Saturday morning and there was like 18 families?
It was hopping. It was.
Of course you're going to get in trouble. Yeah.
So lame. They could have said it to me directly, not called the pool company.
Were you the only lifeguard on duty? Were there multiple?
Yes.
No, there's only one at a time. Yeah, there's no backups here. But you know how many
Jesse,
drownings?
it's your first week, and there's kids everywhere, families running around, and you're playing a volleyball game.
We won. Okay.
Well, that's good at least.
Dude, you know how many drownings there were that day? The same as every other day that I worked there. 0. It was fine.
Was your primary role as a lifeguard just to make sure the chlorine level was good? I mean, like...
Yeah, you were... and no glass bottles in the pool. That was my whole job, was to walk around, hey, man, you got to drink that out there. You know what I mean? Can't have
Did you ever
have
a chocolate bar situation in the pool?
No, but we I don't know how interesting this would be, but not that situation, not the Caddyshack.
I meant the literal. I was being coy. I meant, like, did you ever have an accident?
No, but plenty of people in the business did. It was they called them defecation situations, and it was a big deal because you technically had to close the pool for, like, you're supposed to drain it, but no one did that. You just close it for
you just
like
have to super chlorinate, shock it for a few days. Yeah.
No, but our pool, this is the other thing I got in trouble for, because people in the neighborhood would ask me, they were like, hey, man, can you just not lock up tonight so that we can use it after hours? You know?
That's cool. Were you a cool
Yeah, dude, it's their pool. What do I care? You know what I mean? I know technically my job is to lock up, but like.
What if, I'm not joking, what if you found out the next morning that a child at midnight went in and got hurt? Would you feel responsible? Because you would be directly responsible.
I don't really think I thought through it that much, to be honest with you.
Got it.
But one time I got so mad because I let them hang out. You know, I was like, just wait till I'm gone and go in. Like, you know, plausible deniability here. Mm-hmm. And dude, they trashed it. They had like a huge party and made my life a pain. I was expecting to have an early morning of kicking back with USA Today, and I'm now fishing, beer cans out of the bottom of the pool. They can't be trusted.
Were you in high school or were you in college at this point?
I think it was coming out of my freshman year of college. So, young college.
Most people in their summers for college, in between college, are like doing things to prepare for their career.
I worked at a kids camp. It solidified my future that I will not be a teacher.
But you did become a youth leader up until 2 years ago.
Yeah, but that was actually, so the kids camp was kindergarten through 6th grade. And while I love them, I was like, if I'm going to serve, a younger generation, I need not kids who have Minion watches that go off every hour. And I have to tell their parents, don't let them bring their Minion watch to camp every day. because I don't want to hear be-do on the every time.
But at least it had some preparation for your. I can tell you, I remember my logic that summer, Cameron, was
Please tell me.
And my buddies
Yeah.
were like, we worked really hard our freshman year. We needed money, but we didn't. We were like, what is the job that requires the least amount of effort? Like, what can we do? And we had a blue sky meeting, and me and my buddies, and we're like, and we came up with lifeguard because you're like, and not a beach lifeguard, like a pool lifeguard, because you're like, all you gotta do is sit there. Like, this is the least amount of effort for us, and we can recoup and get ready for college. We put a lot of effort. Well, actually, I kind of goofed it off a lot then too. But the thinking was, what is the thing I can do with the least amount of effort? And that's what we came up with.
Freshman year, I'll give you that. Freshman year, you don't really know what your career path is most likely. So you don't. Yeah, I'm thinking back as we're talking. Like my freshman summer, I didn't work toward my career either, but every summer after that I did. I interned and got media jobs and different things like that and hustled. But my the summer after graduating high school and after freshman year, I worked in a book shipping warehouse, just hauling 50-pound boxes of books and pallets, and oh man, it was hard work. So I had the opposite. It was indoors, and they blasted Rush Limbaugh all day long on the overhead speakers, just to keep your brain engaged.
I'll take the Minion watch.
Exactly. As I was saying, like, I'm thinking I'm jealous of your summer. Like, it was a rough one. And it actually also made me get serious about my education and like want to pursue my career after that. It was just like, I don't want to do hard labor like this anymore.
I think at that point I was still undeclared major wise, but at ORU there wasn't undeclared. It was called exploratory, and so it was like you're doing
like you want to be Dora the Explorer.
Yeah, well, that's what they tell people. You're exploratory. It's like they were like, what do you want to do for a job? And it was always
explore.
Exploring. I want to be an explorer.
You went on the mission trip to Nepal one summer. See, you were prepared.
Yeah, I backpacked in Eastern Europe for one summer after college. There was a lot of exploring going on back then.
Yeah,
good career field.
Speaking of international stuff, that's a stretch of a segue. We have a great show coming up. We're joined by Demi Tebow. You may know her as Tim Tebow's wife, but you may know her as Miss Universe as well. She's a strong believer, has a new book out, and Emily got a chance to talk to her this week. So that's coming up.
I don't. This isn't meant to be anything against Mrs. Tebow.
Please don't. She's a lovely person.
Yeah, it's about the title of Miss Universe. Okay.
It's like the NBA champion calling themselves world champs. Is that where you're going?
If she was Mrs. World, it'd be one thing. Okay. Right. I don't have a problem with getting ambitious with the title. We don't know what is even out there. Right. Like if it was Mrs. Planet Earth, okay, that's fair. I will accept it because we know that is a tangible result. Yeah.
Hot take.
Universe is a flex because you're talking. I mean, look.
It's kind of like the NBA guys. They're saying like we're world champs. Oh, you're saying we're not? Come beat me. So I'm Miss Universe. You're saying I'm not? Come show me I'm not. Like other planets.
Some species is going to show up and be like, whoa. We were cool with you guys. We were not thinking about invading, but you're just claiming the title, Miss Universe. You don't even know.
After talking with her, I will say she does seem like a really spectacular person and is like stunningly beautiful. So it's like, I do think if aliens came and were like, let's see this Miss Universe, and they met her, they would be like, you know what, I get it. Okay.
Look, she could be in contention for it, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like Miss Andromeda should have a shot.
You're advocating for aliens' rights. I love it.
I love it. Well, he always thinks that he's the least of these persons. He wants to uplift and stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. Yeah. He's a big justice guy.
I'm just saying, whoever the pageant person, it was like Miss World, and somebody stood up in the room like, no.
The universe.
Yeah.
Dream bigger.
And they went, yeah, exactly. And they went with it.
Well, I mean, who, I don't know. I don't think it does anymore, but famously for decades owned Miss Universe was Donald Trump. So the braggadocious, bodacious flex
checks out.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like he's not okay with world. We're going universe. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, anyway. I just don't know how you verify it. That's all. That just seems like a knock on its credibility. That's it.
All right. Well, that's all coming up, but stay tuned right now. Up next. Oh, I didn't tell you about the game at the end. Oh, this is crazy. It's going to be 1-on-1. And Jesse, you're at a major disadvantage. It's a game. Is it a C.S. Lewis quote or a Taylor Swift lyric? That's coming up at the end of the show.
Okay.
All right, stay tuned right now.
Prepared for it. I've prepared my whole life for this.
Yeah,
So
I will say this: I made the game. She has no inside access or knowledge of it, so just it's fair square. All right, stay tuned. Up next, it's Slices. You're listening to Good Neighbors. The song is Bloom. Well, today's show is brought to you in part by Wired to Fish Coffee. So many companies are not rooted in Christian principles nowadays. However, they do exist. Meet Wired to Fish Coffee. Founded by Christian anglers who are crazy about the love of Jesus for his people, Wired to Fish Coffee gives back 25% of their net profits to faith-based programs and clean water initiatives. Wired to Fish Coffee also offers a smooth, robust taste rivaling any coffee shop brew. Give Wired to Fish Coffee a try today and join a community of people making a positive impact. Use code WeCare at wired2fishcoffee.com at checkout and get an additional bag for free. You can make a difference. Again, that's wired2fishcoffee.com.
Really quick, I do have a Derek update. I want to let's set the record straight. It is currently 11:25 a.m. and I get a text from Derek saying, "Yo, so sorry, I overslept."
Wow, good for him. Also, I can tell you what time he liked my photo. You know what? He might have been up at 6. Maybe he was still up from the. No, he wasn't. The group chat was going. I was up until 3:13 a.m. last night. We were texting each other during the DNC and different things going on, and all of a sudden the guys all go to bed at the same time in the group chat. Like I know once the clock hits, boom, they just don't reply anymore.
And that time is 3:30 a.m.
No. They all go to bed at I don't hear from them after 11 p.m. kind of.
So then it's just you talking to yourself.
No. The group chat dies then. I'm just saying. But when I was done, I was actually working on a project last night. And so I'm finally in bed, 3:00. I'm scanning my phone for a minute, came across a photo that was so I sent it to the group chat thinking they'll see it in the morning when they get up, And they did. That's what happened. 6 a.m. Derek liked the photo. So I don't think he was up all night working, or else he would have seen it when I sent it at 3. So
now we have more questions and answers.
Yeah, he got up, liked my photo at 6, and then fell back asleep. Maybe
it's plausible. It's
plausible. We've all been there.
Yeah, well.
We'll get to the bottom of it.
It's time for
Slices.
What do you have, Jesse?
All right. Well, this is a really interesting story that is running on relevantmagazine.com right now. And it's the results of a survey by Avocado Green Mattress, the famous think tank.
And just to be clear, we were definitely paid to run. No, I'm joking. I don't even know what story this is.
You got all that avocado green mattress coin. According to them, this is a good one considering the conversation we're having around Derek, because my theory is he woke up at 6 and the vibe was just off. Like, no. I got to go back to bed. I'm not starting the day like this. You know what I mean? We've all had that. Like the first time it's like, no, the vibe's off. Got to go back to bed, reboot this thing. Because according to the survey, the average American knows their day is going to be bad by 8:36 a.m. every morning. And they said this happens up to 4 times a month.
That's very specific.
Well, I think they surveyed people what time do they realize, and I think that was the that was the average.
Yeah.
The average person has these mornings up to 48 times a year. That's 4 times a month. The survey highlights common morning mishaps, such as waking up feeling sick, suffering from poor sleep, starting the day with a headache, were kind of the main reasons. And then there are little ones that can happen first thing when you wake up, like especially if you leave for work and you left your phone at home or something like that. This is my favorite thing. Nearly half of those surveyed, 48%, reported canceling plans or calling in sick after a challenging start to the day. Derek Minor, ladies and
Derek
gentlemen.
Minor, except he didn't call in. He didn't call in sick.
I didn't know that this survey would be confirmed by our very own podcast situation today. But hats off to the social scientists over at Avocado Green Mattress, because they're putting out some verifiable research here.
So, okay, now I'm getting, why would they fund that? And I'm going, because a major reason why you would have a bad day or be in a bad mood by 8:36 is bad sleep. Get a better mattress. Got it. Yeah.
But are you guys, because this was, I'm not a great sleeper, right? I try to go to bed early just because I feel like it enhances my chances of getting a good night's sleep. I feel I've shifted my whole morning deal in the last probably 8 months to I get up very early. I'm now the first one up in my house, and even no matter how busy I am or how much I have to do, I take the first 45 minutes and just sit and drink coffee and read the news or goof around on my phone, just to have a mellow start to the day. And I don't look at email. I do not look at email. I do not look at anything that's going to cause any stress. I don't look at my calendar, anything. It's mindlessness for the first 45 minutes, and it's been a game changer. Do you guys have morning routine? Because I used to be a pop out of bed and just go person, sleep till the last possible minute.
I'm also the first person awake in my house.
Oh, shut up.
I live alone. But I wake up and I try really hard not to look at anything on my phone, but it's hard because I'll see notifications coming in. But I try my best to wait as long as I can before I open those. I like to sit honestly in silence while I eat my breakfast. And
what's funny is all these hyper achieving billionaires, talk about their crazy morning routines, and they're up at 4 a.m. and they go. Guess who is? It says he's a morning putterer, and he, like you, Jesse, gets up with the intentionality of creating space, so he's not rushed and he can just read the paper and just relax. It's Jeff Bezos.
I saw that, and I'm telling you, it has literally been a game changer. It doesn't matter how stressful or active or busy the day is. It is a window of time, and it is guilt free. I'm goofing around on my phone, doing mindless stuff. You know what I mean? Reading, looking at memes or whatever, and with the intention of just slow play in the day. You know what I mean?
You're supposed to set a good example and say you read your Bible too.
Sometimes, sometimes that's later in the day. Sometimes that is, between volunteering sessions in the evening.
I honestly, I enjoy the morning putter as well, and so my schedule is different because I split custody with, I have Cohen half the time. And so those days are early school days and all that. Those are a little busier. But when I get back from dropping them off, it's still early. I don't start work for another hour by the time I get home. So I have that hour to putter. But if I don't have Cohen, I'll get up an hour before work and putter as well. And I always find myself gravitating to this one chair, and it's my chair where I plop down, I have my cup of coffee and do the phone thing. Right. And I caught myself in this rut of doing mindlessness, which is great. But I was like, I want to be better and more intentional with this time as well as just mindless, whatever. So I put a Bible on the little side table next to it. So it's just I go there naturally. It's my comfortable place. And then my Bible's there too. So I can do the mindless stuff and I still get a little intentional time. But it was I realized I was lazy enough that I'm not going to go find a Bible. So I literally leave it out 24/7 on this little side table. So it's there when I'm doing my lazy stuff, But every morning I'm the same way.
That's such a pro tip to do stuff the night before, because I famously am not a morning person. Everyone who's ever known me in my life knows I'm not a morning person.
Can attest.
I'm a night owl, and so I am the person who I will lay out my outfit the night before. If I will put my Bible on the table, I will set up everything I possibly can, so that way in the morning I can putter around, but I don't have to think about anything.
Right. No decisions.
I'm flipping switches, or I'm not making any decisions. The less decisions I have to make in the morning, the better my day will be.
Right. Because because of your job, you have to hit the ground running right away because we got to get so much content up and blah, blah, blah. So it's just like 0 to 60, like right when you sign on. So
I do miss my old job when like, I mean, I don't know how I did 40 hours a week sometime because there was just not a lot to do. But I would always start my mornings by taking a couple BuzzFeed quizzes. By just like surfing on Twitter, being like, what are we talking about today, guys? And then I would get to emails and stuff. And then, I did not like that job.
That's basically what I'm doing very, very early. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say I'm sitting here, figuring out what's going on in the world that day and bettering myself. No, it is, I don't even do like my wife and my son are big Wordle people. That's too much work. I'm not doing some kind of word puzzle.
Oh, I love Wordle.
No, that's not a recreational behavior for me.
So I have a group chat with my parents where we send each other we do Wordle, mini crossword, connections, and strands. There's a couple different games on there. But we always send our connections and strands results. And we mostly do that so that my parents know I'm still alive and okay. Because I think like whenever Wordle first came out, there was some story about like the family knew that something was wrong with their daughter because she didn't submit her Wordle score. And like, it turns out she was, I don't know, something had happened to her. And so my parents were like, so you're going to have to start sending your like, New York Times game scores every day so that we know you're alive.
You literally have to do Wordle as a wellness check.
Yeah.
There's worse wellness checks.
I was going to say, you could just text like, yo. You know what I mean? Like,
morning, everybody.
Too
Morning,
much.
fam.
Too much.
Or just a thumbs up emoji. Like, oh, she's alive.
They make you do quizzes and they look at it like, she didn't get this in 5 tries. That's not Emily. This is a kidnapper. Emily always gets it in 3.
It's a good wellness check. I'm just saying.
We need to call the police again.
Yeah, again. Police keep showing up at Lindsay's house because she can't finish the Wordle correctly. Anyway,
it took you 7 tries. 7?
Emily, what do you have?
Okay. I'll be honest. I was really tempted to make you guys sit through a definitive timeline of J-Lo and Ben Affleck's relationship because I know that that's something that's been on y'all's minds all week, but I'm not going to do that, obviously. Okay. I actually want to talk about something else. So I've had this theory for a few years that the only way to kind of fix the chaos that is social media right now is to get back to our roots. And by roots, I obviously mean MySpace.
USA Today. USA Today.
So my roots are a little different.
Get back to the Telegraph.
The Telegraph, yeah, exactly. No, okay. I want us to go back to MySpace because I just feel like social media was more fun back then. That also could be because I was in middle school, but it just was a really fun time, and everyone like took social media less seriously. Anyway, someone at Instagram, or I guess Meta, is on my side because they announced a new feature this week that you can add a song to your profile page, and I'm personally really excited to spend and probably honestly waste a lot of time trying to figure out what song really defines like the era that I'm in so that when people go to my profile page, they'll see it.
Does anybody ever go to anybody's profile page?
Oh, I absolutely do.
Well, yeah, but you track all the locations of your friends. We learned on last podcast.
Yeah,
you're a snooper.
I think I like the personalization and think it's a cool feature. Yeah. But can I tell you the most underrated thing about MySpace? And again, probably aging myself here. It taught an entire like when I first started working in digital media, it was before like content platforms had like elaborate CMS, like content management systems that had, interfaces. Now there's tons of them. And you had to do basic HTML to kind of upload content. There is an entire generation that knows basic HTML coding because of MySpace. There's got to be some enterprising social media person that could gamify coding like that to teach. Like if you want your profile to look a certain way, you got to learn the basics of the code. I feel like MySpace helped an entire generation learn the basics of like CSS and HTML. Just because that was the only way to update your profile with glitter and custom songs.
Oh, here's the problem. AI can code now. So there's a generation that's just going to go, why would you write it yourself? AI will just do it for you.
But it's more fun to do it yourself.
But that's like,
I was up till like 2 a.m. like absolutely coding everything. I felt like I had like, in my mind, I was like, I'm probably hacking the dark web right now. Like I just felt so cool, high tech. Turns out again, it was just basic HTML. But No, I agree. There was a lot of valuable lessons we learned on MySpace.
Yeah, well, you could say the same thing about like Figma and interface design or whatever. Yeah, there are going to be more intuitive tools, but I think there's something valuable about knowing at least functionally how all of this works, you know?
Yeah, but in the future, it's not going to matter. You know what I mean? It's almost like, like some the radio to TV or, or like from analog to digital. My school, when I was in media in the 90s, late 90s, for radio production, they taught us reel to reel, how to edit a story, record on tape reels, and then edit it by splicing, literally cutting the tape and taping it together. And this is how you edit a story, an audio story. And it's like, digital media existed, digital recordings and all this stuff. And they're like, no. You need to learn the fundamentals. And it's like, no, you just are too cheap to buy new equipment.
Hey, real talk. I one time did a very complex edit in one of those classes. I did it on a computer, recorded the recording on the reel, like on the actual, like the analog film or audio recording reel.
Yeah.
And I cut it. I cut it where I had made the digital things and spliced it back together. And it just looked like I was a fantastic analog editor. But I just recorded my digital one and then I physically cut the tape and spliced it. So it sounded
You guys were still doing it in the 2000s? You guys were still doing analog? They hadn't upgraded
the first
yet?
time, we had a whole lesson on what they call rocking the reels, where you have a reel in each hand. You had to turn them together and like stretch the tape just a bit so you could hear between the breath. You know what I mean? Like, and then you get a razor, an actual razor blade, and you cut it, and then you tape it, you splice it.
This is what basically you're advocating for, Jesse. They need to know the fundamentals, and we look back at that and laugh. That is so ridiculous. We didn't need to learn that. You know what I mean?
I'm just saying. I think because here's the thing. I'm not saying HTML is the basis for AI coding. But like, someone's got to make the AI, right? Mm-hmm. Someone has to. There has to be people that can get under the hood of any tool.
The AI is going to be able to make the AI as we move forward. Like in the next year, they're going to have an AI that's smarter than all humans combined.
But again, there are still applications for software design that I feel like
In the future, if I have an idea for an app, I don't need a designer, a coder, or a writer. I'll literally describe the app and the experience I want, the aesthetic I want, the user experience I want, and it will just create it for me.
I still think, and again, I still think there's going to be a high value market for software engineers. Like, I just don't ever see that.
Yeah, there's still Foley artists, I guess, that do sound effects for movies and stuff.
So we don't need to belabor it, but again, I
understand why you're that's appealing to you. I'm just saying, in practicality, the generations coming up.
I'm not saying it has an appeal.
It'll be so archaic. It'll be like using the telegraph. They'll be like, "What? Why would we do that when we could do this?" You know what I mean? So much easier.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's not like I'm looking to get into software engineering. I'm just saying. I still think there's going to be a need. Anyway, if anyone's looking for a good reel-to-reel editor. I'm not
Jesse
your guy.
and I was pretty good too.
Your guy because I cheated.
You cheated. I was going to say. All right.
I literally did that though. I literally played it loud on my computer and just recorded it on the thing, and then got it to make it look like I did it.
It's wild. All right, that'll do it for Slices. Stay tuned. Up next, Demi Tebow joins us. You're listening to Peach Pit. The song is Magpie. Well, today's show is brought to you in part by World Vision. We all subscribe to a lot of services that make our lives easier and more entertaining. But as followers of Jesus, we should want to seek first the kingdom of God in all areas of life, including our spending. That's why I'm so excited about a new kind of subscription through World Vision. Not one for myself, but for others. It's called Believers for World Change. And when you sign up, you're joining a community of change makers working to help end extreme poverty around the world and here at home. World Vision is a Christian humanitarian organization that works with children, families, and communities to reach their God-given potential, focusing on things like gender equality, spiritual nurture, and access to clean water, education, job training, and healthcare, so the entire picture of poverty can be addressed. Let's subscribe to something new together. Subscribe to World Change today at worldvision.org. Again, that's worldvision.org. Well, our guest today is Demi Tebow. She's a former Miss Universe from South Africa, although she's currently living in the much more exotic locale of Jacksonville, Florida, with her husband, who you may know as former Florida Gator star, Tim Tebow. Much like Tim, she's very outspoken about her faith and recently shared her personal story in a new book called A Crown That Lasts. She sat down with Demi-Leigh to tell us more about her journey and how she realized she needed to place her identity in God, not her accomplishments. Here's our conversation with Demi Tebow.
Tell me about the moment that inspired you to write this book. You know, what was happening in your life at that time?
Gosh, Emily, a couple things, but I think the main really moment that inspired this book was the moment where I, stepped off of a stage, something that I had worked for a long time, handed back something that I attached a lot of my worth and value to. And the moment, I stepped off of that Miss Universe stage, giving back my crown, it was a moment of, oh my goodness, where to now? Literally, I was, I didn't even know how to get back to my dressing room because everything had been done for me up until that point. I had so much support in a sense. I had a whole team of people, and that team of people just flocked to their next and new purpose. And it just really sent me spiraling into a season of feeling like a failure, into a season of feeling like nothing new, nothing good is coming. And it just felt like a wasted season. And that's really the thing that inspired me. The title, especially A Crown That Lasts, I talk about the crown that I wore that didn't last, physically, but also, literally and figuratively speaking, I gave back that thing that I felt like made me worthy. And, maybe people listening to this can't necessarily relate to the crown that I wore, but maybe they can relate to that purpose or that accolade or that prize or that corner office or that paycheck that they felt made them worthy, that they felt gave people a reason to want to have them in the room. And maybe that fell away at some point, and alongside that, their identity too.
What are some questions we can ask ourselves to help us determine where we're placing our identity?
I think there's one question that popped up for me, especially in that season, is who am I when everything I've had to show up for every single day is no longer there? I think that might be a question that we get to ask ourselves. And, a couple years ago, in that messy waiting season that I found myself in, I couldn't answer that question. I genuinely didn't know how to. In fact, I actually pretended to be my own assistant just so that I could divert people not to have to do interviews or podcasts, or, because I was so fearful of answering that question. My answer would have been a failure, when in fact now I know I get to look at that question so much differently, as a way more mature woman that I've grown through a really hard season. And I know that the Bible tells us that we will face trials and tribulations. It's not a maybe, it's a when. And, I know that wasn't the last trial or, moment of tribulation that I will face in my life, and therefore I feel like I can, be better prepared for a next season.
When you first recognized that something was, maybe off and needed to change, how did you do it? What were some of the steps that you took to rebuild your identity?
I wrote a whole chapter about just that. Well, pretty much a whole book, to be honest. But there is one specific chapter called Working Through the Waiting. And I talk about how we can wait God's way. And I believe that means that we work through that waiting season. It means that we, show up and we say, Lord, I'm willing for you to use me where I'm at with what I've got. Please do that. And I think that was one thing that I wasn't necessarily doing in that waiting season. I was so focused on the self, on my own accomplishments, on my own self-confidence. And Emily, I failed myself over and over and over again. I don't know about you, but when I think of the word self-confidence, confidence means to have full trust. And in that waiting season, I had full trust in myself. And sooner rather than later, I experienced a failure because the trust I get to have in myself is very limited, to be very frank, But when we get to go and change out that self-confidence for God confidence and rely on who our maker is instead of who we are, not just all the promises that he's made, but get to focus on all the promises that he's kept throughout eternity. That is why we get to have confidence in who he is. That is why we get to have full trust in who he is. And I think honing in on that was something that really helped me get through that waiting season. In this chapter, I write an extensive list of things that I practically did. I'll just give you two quick examples. Something that was super helpful for me was to take the focus off of myself by serving others. And the second thing was, this is something that I didn't necessarily do in that waiting season that I wish I had done, because now I know how valuable this is by surrounding myself with a community of people that will point me back to the truth every single time I plant weeds of doubt in my life. Having that pit crew of people to point you back to the truth is so valuable.
How would you say your life is different now that you've built your identity in who God is and not in your accomplishments?
I think I get to show up every single day with a renewed purpose, a purpose that is bigger than myself, and a purpose that will hopefully be able to last for eternity, because that purpose is not just focused on me, but as the Bible tells us, there's two things that will last forever, and that's God's word and it's his people. And I feel like my purpose is to empower women around the world to see their true worth and value, and to inspire them, empower, equip, educate them on how to walk in that purpose with the utmost confidence. And that's something that brings me so much joy, because that's something that's way bigger than myself and that will last a whole lot longer.
I think there can be a real tension in, going after our goals, but not getting so caught up in them that it becomes our whole image or persona, right? So what are some ways that we can still stay rooted in our identity in God while pursuing our dreams or our passions?
It's something I definitely had to work through, right? The Bible tells us that we can and should strive for excellence. I think it's even Daniel it was because of his excellent attitude that he, impressed the king. And throughout the Bible, we read about excellence. And I think by definition, excellence means to strive for something higher, something bigger, something better, not just sitting here and saying, okay, this is all I can do, but keep working, keep trying to be better. But I think the mistake we make is we think excellence and perfection is the same thing, and it's not. I think chasing after those accolades, those crowns, those corner offices, that next paycheck, that next job title, that next car, all those things are not bad things. I think the tricky thing comes when we root our identity in those things. You know, Paul wrote to the church of Corinth in Corinthians 9:25, and he said, hey, church people, heads up, don't chase perishable crowns. And that's exactly what I did. Quite literally, I chased the crown that did not last, right? But he tells us don't chase perishable crowns. And what he's referring to in that passage, in that scripture, is these athletes that competed in the Isthmian Games. It was a rival to the Olympic Games. And what these athletes would literally put their lives on the line for, some scholars believe. Some scholars even believe that some of these athletes passed away just in the preparation for these games. That's how intense it was. And all that these athletes would win was a wreath, a crown made up of pine leaves, celery leaves, or I think depending on the season, olive tree leaves. Now, listen, I think that's just kind of a head salad. Pine tree, I don't know about you, I love my celery juice, but celery leaves don't last, not even in the special refrigerator drawer. You know, and we literally got warned 2,000 years ago not to chase things that won't last, but to chase things that will have an impact on eternity. And like we discussed earlier, those two things are God's word and his people. And so something that I've had to learn, Emily, is, you know, well, where do I get to have an identity that is steadfast, that is not going to send me on this roller coaster if I root my identity in my accolades, my prizes, my accomplishments? That's going to send me on a roller coaster of emotions at some point or another, maybe multiple times in my life. There's not going to be a steadfast identity when I root my identity in my life circumstances that are ever changing, right? And so what I had to learn is, well, I have to root my identity in something that is fixed, that is, you know, never moving, never changing, bigger than myself, and always trustworthy. And that is definitely not my life circumstances, because my life circumstances are none of those things. But my faith in Jesus is exactly that. He is not just a promise maker, he is a promise keeper. He is always fixed, never changing, always trustworthy, and bigger than me. His plans are bigger than mine. The love that he has for me is bigger than anyone would ever be able to have. And that's where I get to have an identity that is steadfast and never changing.
That was Demi Tebow. Make sure to check out her new book, A Crown That Lasts. It's out now. All right, stay tuned. Up next, it's CS versus TS. CS or TS? We'll explain. You're listening to Demi-Leigh. The song is That's Life. Well, Relevant has a lot happening this year, and we don't want you to miss a thing. Make sure to sign up for our newsletter right there on the front page at relevantmagazine.com, and we'll send you our top 5 trending stories sent to your inbox every weekday. We'll also send you a weekly podcast newsletter with the latest episodes, some fan extras, and first peeks at the new shows that we're going to be rolling out throughout this year. Make sure to sign up. It's the best way to keep in touch with everything we got going on. Okay, it is time for, is it CS or TS?
Is it CS or is it GS?
Is it a C.S. Lewis quote or a Taylor Swift lyric?
This is my dream
Mono
game.
a mono.
Okay.
Are you talking smack? Are you literally like, are you like Babe Ruth pointing?
Smack.
Are you pointing to the outfield right now and then you hit your home run?
It sounds like it.
I mean, I don't have high hopes for Jesse. I'll say it.
All right, let's
High
do
hopes.
this
High
thing.
hopes. Isn't that a Taylor Swift song?
No.
I don't know. I don't know any Taylor Swift songs except Single Ladies.
I'm not laughing at that.
I was really trying to poke the bear. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Jesse, you're up first. To love at all is to be vulnerable. Is that a C.S. Lewis quote or a Taylor Swift lyric?
That sounds like our boy Clive Staples.
It is. You're right. You're right. Okay. All right. Emily, we are what we believe we are.
I think that's C.S. Lewis.
Not so cocky now.
Yeah, I know. I realized that's why I also didn't want to talk smack because I was like, I'm going to mess myself up on this.
Yeah, that is C.S. Lewis. It's from the book Letters to Malcolm, and Jesse, yours was from the book The Four Loves. Okay, Jesse, you're up. Courage, dear heart.
That sounds like something like one of the Narnia kids would say, but I also think it's a curveball. I think it's Taylor Swift.
It's C.S. Lewis. It's
It
the
is from
voyage
Narnia.
of the Dawn Treader. Yeah.
Aslan says it.
That's what I was at least. Yeah.
All right,
Okay.
Emily.
Yeah.
Here we go. You're up. People throw rocks at things that shine.
Taylor Swift.
What song?
Ours.
It is. It's
Yeah.
from ours. That's crazy.
I would have said that's that little vandal Lucy.
Jesse, so I'll watch your life in pictures like I used to watch you sleep.
Creepy. Sounds like Taylor Swift to me.
It is Taylor Swift. That's good.
Do you know what song?
I have no. I couldn't even venture a guess. Watch you sleep.
Last Kiss.
Do you know it?
Stalker.
Last Kiss. That's right.
Yeah.
She's right. Last Kiss.
Creepy stalker.
Okay, Emily, here you go. And the road not taken looks real good now.
That's Taylor Swift.
It is from the song Betty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Jesse, here you go. Yeah, here we go. We are what we believe we are.
This is tough. That sounds like something Taylor Swift would say.
It was C.S. Lewis from the Book of Malcolm.
What? That doesn't even theologically check out.
Here we go. Emily, the pain I feel now is the happiness I had before. That's the deal.
C.S. Lewis.
It is C.S. Lewis.
That's the deal. It was a curveball. That sounds
Yeah,
like
exactly.
Honestly, that was actually the tell because I was like, I don't think there's a single time Taylor's ever said that's the deal.
Are you serious?
Yeah, that was the tell. I'm basically going on I do love C.S. Lewis, but I'm really going on like, if this is not a Taylor Swift lyric that I know for a fact, it has to be C.S. Lewis. Like, that's just how this works. No offense, Clive.
Got it. Okay, here we go. Jesse, humility is not thinking less of yourself, but thinking of yourself less.
That's C.S. Lewis.
It is C.S. Lewis.
Say
Good
it with
job.
conviction. Come on.
All right, right
I
now,
just couldn't picture someone singing that. Seems like a mouthful. Yeah.
Emily, and the story's got dust on every page.
Taylor Swift.
Dang it. Do you know the song?
Is it Story of Us?
No, Cornelia Street. Do we take a half point off, Jesse?
Oh, Cornelia
Yeah,
Street.
full.
Full
Okay.
point off.
Okay.
3 points off because you got that wrong.
Whoa.
Inexcusable.
Rigged.
Okay, Jesse, you are never too old to set another goal or to dream a new dream.
C.S. Lewis.
It is C.S. Lewis. Good job. And for the last one, Emily, here we go. It is, no one ever told me that grief felt so like fear.
Ooh. I think that's C.S. Lewis.
It is C.S. Lewis. Good job. You won, Emily, by 3.
Jesse
my
gave me a good run, though. Like, that one was close.
Thank you.
My favorite version of this game is when Billy on the Street did this game with Stephen Colbert. And it was, is this a lyric from La La Land or is this a Nicki Minaj lyric? And the La La Land one, was, all the lyrics were about LA and love. And all the Nicki Minaj ones were just absolute explicit filth. It was so funny. It was so funny. And Stephen Colbert couldn't keep a straight face. It was great. I almost did that version of the game. So you're welcome.
But it would just be you bleeping out every other word.
Yeah.
If it was,
Oh no! I should have bleeped out these ones. That would have been funny. Like all the C.S. Lewis quotes are just all explicit. All right, that'll do it for Is This TS or CS?
Is it CS or is it GS?
Well, before we wrap things up, many thanks to Demi Tebow for joining us today. Make sure to check out her new book, A Crown That Lasts. It's out now. Also, check out issue 115 of Relevant. The digital issue is at relevantmagazine.com. All the info is right there. Click the magazine tab. Get it. Read it. Okay. On that note, we'll wrap it up. I'm Cameron Strang.
I'm Jesse Carey.
I'm Emily Brown.
We will see you on Friday. Have a great week, everyone.
Thanks for listening to the Relevant Podcast. Check out our features, interviews, and news updates every day at relevantmagazine.com. And make sure to follow Relevant on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram for the latest. For more great podcasts, browse the shows on the Relevant Podcast Network, which you can find at our site. And while you're there, don't miss the all-new era of Relevant Magazine. A new issue releases every other month at relevantmagazine.com.
It's not like they talk to a shoe designer.
Relevant Podcast Network.